Hey everybody, it is time for our fourth and final series preview of the second round in the NHL, and after another epic Toronto Maple Leafs collapse last night and another Game 7 loss, it is the Montreal Canadiens going on to face the Winnipeg Jets to see who will come out of the North Division and represent in the Final Four this year. So we're going to be looking at this series between Winnipeg and Montreal. Before we begin, I just ask you to please subscribe and hit that thumbs up if you haven't yet. It really helps out the channel a ton and is greatly appreciated. But let's take a look here as the Winnipeg Jets and Montreal Canadiens get ready for round number 2, which starts on Wednesday night. Coming in, Winnipeg is the higher seed. They finished third in the North Division this season with a 30-23-3 record on the year. And they played pretty well against Montreal in the regular season. They won 6 out of the 9 games that they played against each other. Went 6-3-0 in the regular season against the Canadiens. And Winnipeg is coming off of a very surprising 4-0 sweep over the Edmonton Oilers to knock out McDavid, Draisaitl, and the team out in Edmonton. So Winnipeg has actually been sitting for a while and kind of waiting to see who they were going to play here in round number 2. And that's going to be something I think that's going to be really interesting to watch, is how do they look after such a long layoff. In the regular season, Winnipeg did not have any problem scoring goals. They scored 3.04 goals for per game, which was 12th in the NHL. So it wasn't super spectacular, but it was top half of the league, and offense in general hasn't really been an issue for the Jets. Defensively, they played very well in the regular season, giving up just 2.71 goals against per game, which was 10th best in the NHL. So they did have a top 10 team defense this year, and Connor Hellebuyck in goal, I think, has a lot to do with that. Connor Hellebuyck also had a tremendous first round against Edmonton. It looks like Vezina Hellebuyck is here for the playoffs. Power play for the Winnipeg Jets is pretty darn good. 23% on the man advantage in the regular season, which is 7th best in the NHL. So they have a really solid power play. Their penalty kill isn't too bad either. It's middle of the pack, 80.5% on the PK, which was 13th in the league in the regular season. So mid-pack, but in the top half of the league, which is what you want to see. Switching things over now to the Montreal Canadiens side of things. They went 24-21-11 on the season, 59 points, which was enough to get the fourth and final playoff spot in the North Division. They went 3-3-3 versus Winnipeg in the regular season this year, so they were only able to win 3 of the games. However, 3 of the losses came in overtime or a shootout, which means that they were able to keep the game close. And, you know, they're obviously coming in with some momentum now after winning 3 in a row. Speaking of winning 3 in a row, they are coming off of a 4-3 7-game series win over the Toronto Maple Leafs, in which they were at one point down 3-1 in that series. They won games 5, 6, and 7 to end up coming back and take the series. And that obviously is going to give them a lot of confidence and a lot of momentum heading into this series. Now, in the regular season, they only scored 2.82 goals for per game, which was 17th in the NHL. And they're not a particularly high-scoring team, so how much they're able to score on Winnipeg is definitely going to be something to watch in this series. Defensively, they weren't very good in the regular season, just giving up 2.95 goals against per game, which is 18th in the NHL. So the lower part of middle of the road there as far as goals against go. However, Carey Price in the playoffs has been a very different Carey Price than what we saw in the regular season. And it really looks like playoff Price is shown up, and he's been playing at an extremely high level, which means that I think this team is going to be a lot tougher to score against in this series for Winnipeg than they were in the regular season. The special teams for the Canadiens are not great, or at least they weren't great in the regular season. Their power play was just 19.2%, which was tied for 17th in the NHL, and their penalty kill was 78.5%, which was tied for 23rd in the NHL. That's going to be something to watch, is the top 10 power play of the Winnipeg Jets going against the 23rd ranked penalty kill of the Montreal Canadiens. That could be something that could play a big role in this series, and Montreal needs to make sure that they stay out of the penalty box against Winnipeg, because Winnipeg's power play will make you pay. But overall, this is gonna be a really interesting series here, I think. I did not expect either of these two teams to make it this far, and the fact that they did, I think there's obviously huge props to both of these teams for being able to pull off the upsets in round number 1. And now, I mean, they're kind of playing with house money here. Not really sure which way it's going to go, not really sure what to expect. Because these teams have already performed significantly better in the playoffs than I thought that they were going to. So there's a few things that I think are going to be really interesting to watch. I mentioned the Jets power play versus the Canadiens PK. I think the goaltending matchup here is going to be absolutely spectacular to see which goaltender is able to get the edge, because they both played extremely well in round number 1. I mean, Vezina Trophy, Connor Hellebuyck showed up for that Oilers series, but then Carey Price pretty much stole the series for the Canadiens against Toronto, and the Leafs could not get goals past Carey Price throughout much, especially the latter portion of that series, and Price was playing absolutely out of his mind. So the goaltending matchup here between Hellebuyck and Price, I think, is going to be really fun to watch. I mean, Montreal has a solid overall team game. I think their team defense on paper, or at least their decor on paper, I think is ahead of the curve compared to where Winnipeg is at. However, I think Winnipeg absolutely has the advantage offensively in this series. Their top 6 and just their scoring depth and what they can do offensively is definitely ahead of what Montreal is able to do offensively. But you would have said the exact same thing about the Leafs offense compared to Montreal's, and that Montreal was still able to win that series. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens here. I think it's going to come down to the goaltending. I think, whatever goaltender is able to come out and keep the puck out of their net, 93-94% of the time, that is going to be the team that's able to win this series. These are probably not going to be high scoring games. If they are, that heavily favors the Winnipeg Jets. If they're low scoring games, I think those are the kinds of games that Montreal needs it to be able to steal. But I think whichever goaltender plays better is really going to be the one that's able to steal this series. And I would not be surprised if you're looking at, a lot of 2-1 games here, a lot of 3-2 games, and goalies, with whether it's Hellebuyck or Price, with save percentages of .925, .930, maybe even .940 in this series, because that's what it's going to take to win. So, man, I don't know what to say with this series. Like, I think, there's a lot of different ways that could go, but I think at the end of the day, it's really going to come down to just which goaltender is able to steal this series, because that's what both goaltenders were able to do in round number 1. They're both not going to be able to do it here. Someone has to win. Someone has to lose. It's going to be whichever goalie keeps the puck out more that is going to take this series, and the other team is unfortunately going to be headed home. But as far as a prediction is concerned, I just think that at the end of the day, Winnipeg is going to be able to score more goals and get more pucks past Carey Price than what Montreal is going to be able to do past Connor Hellebuyck. And I'm going to take the Winnipeg Jets in 6 games in this series, and I think that they will go on to represent the North Division in the Final Four. And we'll see how far Connor Hellebuyck can carry them beyond that. But I certainly think that either team is capable of winning this series. I think Carey Price can steal this series just as easily as he did steal the Toronto series. But if I had to make a guess, I'm going to go with Hellebuck and the Jets in this one, just because I think they have a little bit more offensive firepower, a little bit more offensive talent, and that is going to be enough to put them over the edge in a very low-scoring series. So I have Jets in 6 here, and that is my playoff preview of Winnipeg versus Montreal. Like, comment, share, subscribe, follow on social media. All those links are down in the description. If you'd like to further support the channel, links to our Patreon, merchandise store, donation link, and memberships down in the description as well. Keep spreading the word about this channel. Let's keep this thing growing. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll talk to you guys soon.